I got the plague poop on me.
We're probably fine.
This is Anxious at Bedtime, Take 1. I'm one of your hosts, Cash.
There better only be one take.
Well, hopefully.
And I'm your other host, Monica.
And together, we are also anxious at bedtime. What?
You're cute.
All right. So, you got anything new?
Just one thing.
Ooh, what's the one thing?
So it literally just happened like 10 minutes ago.
Ooh.
I was trying to cleanse our little recording room for the first time since we moved in.
Cleanse it.
Yeah. And it's probably just because I have to be honest, it is a new incense that I was using. But I spent a solid 10 minutes trying to get it to light. And it would start to light, I would walk away, and then it would turn off.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Something was like, no, blow it out, blow it out.
I don't know. That was weird.
I ain't got shit.
No.
Never do.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that. Like, I really don't.
You do. You just don't like to share it.
I got nothing.
I am so tired now, though. While I was waiting for you, I almost fell asleep in my chair like I was starting to drift off. So I'm wondering, was I the thing that was keeping the incense from lighting?
Your energy.
Yeah, and now I'm like, I need to get out of this room and go to bed.
Maybe.
But, thank you for joining us. I guess let's just get into it.
Let's get into it.
So, close your eyes.
Okay.
Unless you're listening to this and driving, then don't do that. But
I will.
imagine an island so haunted, so cursed, that even the government refuses to use it. A place whose only inhabitants are the dead. That's where we're traveling for this week's episode. Welcome to Poveglia.
Oh, I can't pronounce that. Not even in the slightest.
If you can hear the meowing in the background and I can't edit that out, I'm sorry. That is our cat, Kevin.
Oh, yeah, he's a lonely cat every time Monica's not around.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Poveglia is a small 17-acre island off of the northern coast of Italy.
Oh.
Today, it's mostly crumbling buildings overtaken by crawling vines and sprawling trees, but once it was something entirely different.
I heard it's also inhabited by a lot of haunted stuff.
It is.
Oh, okay.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Do they deny it too?
No.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I wouldn't say they lean into it, but I think it's like my Poppy's philosophy about ghosts, like just pretend it's not there and move on with your day.
You can say, yeah, we've heard about it, but, we're pretty good.
Exactly. The island is separated into two parts by a canal. One side of the canal is where all the buildings are, and the other side is just vegetation.
Ah, lots of lettuce and cabbage and shit. That's where they grow all the tomatoes.
First of all, tomatoes are a fruit. Second of all, no vegetables.
You said vegetation. You didn't say vegetables.
You were hinting at vegetables.
That's because that's all I know is a bunch of fucking vegetables and shit, dude. You keep telling me to eat those things.
Ugh. As we're learning is common with stuff like this, there are a few different beliefs behind how this island was first inhabited. The first records date it all the way back to 421 AD.
Ooh.
But some historians believe that it could have been inhabited as far back as 2,000 years before that. Some people believe the first residents were prisoners of war. Some people believe they were people from other countries that used the island as a refuge from barbarian attacks and invasions that were happening in their home countries.
I can get behind that.
Others believe that its first residents consisted of the people that were behind the murder of the 13th Doge of Venice. His name was Pietro Tradenico.
Oh, so they're like, this guy, they fucking murdered this guy and they dipped to that island. I fucking know it, but let's not search there.
Kind of. I'll explain.
Oh, okay.
So basically what happened with that is Pietro Tradenico was leaving Vespers, which in Catholicism is the evening prayers. So he was outside of the church of San Zaccaria when he was attacked by a group of people. He got stabbed to death, and immediately after, riots broke out throughout the entire city.
Yeah, the hood rode for him.
Kinda, yeah. Because it was like the riots broke out immediately after, to the point that the nuns of the church had to wait until nightfall when the chaos calmed down just to retrieve his body.
That's wild.
Yeah,
They were not happy.
no.
Okay.
It's said that Tradenico's successor swiftly punished those that were involved in the murder, but while some were executed, others were allegedly exiled to France and Constantinople. So, if some were just exiled, they very well could have made it to the island of Poveglia instead.
They were like, fuck it. Let's go here. I mean, I guess everything was mostly vast and uninhibited.
Well, depending on which theory you believe on how it was inhabited, because it could have been already slightly inhabited and they just went there.
No, I just mean like there's not a lot of people. You can vanquish them, and you're not gonna go hang out with like your cousins and people you know kind of thing. It's gonna be very like there's not a lot of civilizations around there. You gotta create your own at that point in time. No, am I wrong?
Probably, yeah. So, just with that, there's already a lot going on the island. You could pick any one of those theories on how this place was first settled, and there's a ton of emotions and heartbreak and anger wrapped up into the beginning of this island. And it does not end there.
Oh, I thought it would.
No.
Well, boy, was I mistaken.
The people that lived there seemed to be having a pretty good time. They were kind of just left to do their own thing, but like in a good way. They didn't have to pay taxes. They didn't have to follow Italian laws.
They're just vibing.
Yeah. And despite all of the wars and battles at the time, the island was mostly left alone because it was so small that people didn't think it would be worth the time and effort to try to take it over.
See?
Yeah. So they're like, who cares? However, the population dwindled enough that by the time Venice and Genoa went to war with each other, everybody just abandoned the island.
No, they were like, fuck it. Nobody's bringing supplies out this bitch.
Maybe, yeah. And that's how it stayed for a long time. Just empty.
Yeah.
Now let's jump to the year 1348, also known as the year that the Black Plague started.
I remember.
I'm sorry I can't talk today. And no, you're silly.
It was a wild year.
Wild year. It's believed that the Black Plague originated over 2,000 years ago. However, recent research has pointed to its existence in Europe as far back as the year 3000 BC.
Did they... Well, they obviously didn't find that name for it back then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was it called back then?
I don't know. I don't even know if there was actually, like, written record that far back. I know we've looked into when that started before, but I don't think it was that far back. So I don't know.
They're just going off like...
Drawings?
Somebody may have coughed this at some point. The air had to have had the Black Plague.
Maybe, I don't know. Oh, probably carbon dating.
But what are they carbon dating?
Fleas?
The bacteria that we have nowadays and saying, yep, this existed back then.
I don't know.
I'm just curious.
But 3000 BC is before the pyramids were even built.
Allegedly.
Allegedly built. That's how far back that is. One thing that I found interesting, because I had no idea, during this time there were a lot of poets and writers in Italy. I knew that part. Hold on.
I was hoping.
I know. I could see your face. But that makes sense because when you think of artists, you typically think of Italy, and that's always been a thing. Like the Italian Renaissance.
Yeah.
Italy is art. But during this time, there were a lot of illiterate people in the world because that's just how the world was. And those that were creating art through writing often lived in Italy. So because of that, a lot of the accounts that we have today of the Black Plague come from Italy. Yeah, I didn't know that. In the early 1300s, there were rumors of this illness along trade routes in China, India, Persia, Egypt, and Syria.
It's a lot of places.
Yeah.
But trade routes, people are going around there just spreading the plague all about like a hospital.
Exactly. But at that point, it was mostly just rumor. I mean, I'm sure it was there, but it was like did you hear about the two-headed goat? Like that type of thing?
Well, I've been to a lot of different shops that have two-headed goats, so that's real too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
The plague officially hit Europe when 12 ships, now referred to as death ships, docked at a Sicilian port. The people at the docks quickly realized something was wrong when they found that most of the people on board were either dead or nearly dead with clear signs of the plague.
Yeah, that probably... I'd be like, this is a red flag, right, guys?
Yeah,
right
something.
then. I'd be like, right, this is where we draw the line. I say no, don't let him in, right?
If you're unfamiliar with the symptoms of the plague, the most prominent one is boils.
Oh,
Yeah,
get a lot of boily people.
a lot, yeah. Today, we understand that the bubonic plague attacks the lymphatic system, and because of that, people's lymph nodes would swell to the size of apples. Back then, they didn't understand that. They just knew that people were getting these really large, weird growths on their groin and underneath their armpits.
So, did they just try to cut them out?
Kinda. They did, what's it called?
Lobotomies.
No. Oh, I can't think of the name right now. I didn't put it in my notes because I want to save like all of the medical stuff for a medical episode. But they did, I think it's called boil lancing, where they would like drain it.
Well, yeah, you got to.
Yeah.
Gotta let it out just a little bit.
Gross.
I mean, it's probably not recommended.
Yeah,
but...
probably not because it's just your lymph nodes. But the boils would bleed or seep pus. And then, of course, there were also the typical symptoms. People would get high fevers, nausea, diarrhea, all of the stuff that we know today as symptoms of illness. Then the most infamous symptom, black spots.
Oh, okay. You left me on suspense there.
I lost my spot in my notes, I'm sorry. The reason the plague got the nickname the Black Death is because when the bacteria enters the lymph nodes swell and become gangrenous. The gangrene eats the surrounding tissue and causes these black, oozy spots all over the body.
Oh, you don't want that.
No, I'll show you a picture.
Oh, you don't want that.
There we go. You see his hand?
Oh, yeah. As I've previously mentioned, not a good deal.
No.
I may not have mentioned that here, but I'm sure I've said it before.
I'm sure you have. So yeah, very
You
scary.
don't want that, guys.
You don't. But it's very scary, especially not understanding illness or disease much at all back then and thinking everything was witchcraft. I couldn't imagine seeing these ships pull up and everybody has like black spots on them. Everybody has these giant boils that are leaking.
Yeah, I'd be like, the hell's going on here?
Yeah. Like
And they're
that's,
like, I don't know. We need medical. I'd be like, no.
we don't have
You need
that.
to go.
Yeah.
You need to go. You got a lot of stuff going on, and I don't want that.
Very scary, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Imagine they're big ports, too, with language barriers. Makes it even worse and harder.
Yeah.
People are in fear for sure.
So people saw that and they were understandably extremely freaked out.
Oh, yeah.
The ships were ordered to leave immediately, but the damage was already done and the plague started sweeping through Europe.
Yeah, I saw it. It's pretty easy. It looks like venom from Spider-Man. It just spreads.
It kind of does. And I will try to remember to post pictures of everything we talk about. You know the drill.
What kind of drill?
The drill where I say I'll post something and then we'll see if I actually remember to do it.
Oh, yeah, that kind of drill.
That kind of drill.
There's no brand.
No brand? Oh,
Yeah.
you're silly. Get us sponsored by one and maybe I'll say a brand.
You heard her.
But nobody could understand what caused the sickness or how it transferred to people, so there was a lot of fear. One doctor back then even said that he thought the plague spread when somebody that was sick made eye contact with somebody that wasn't, and their spirit would reach out and infect the not sick person.
It makes a lot of sense with Medusa and shit.
Yeah. But so that's the level of fear and misunderstanding that we're dealing with. Another common belief was that the plague was God's punishment. That's even a nickname for it. I didn't know that.
I still call it that.
By that, they meant that somebody only contracted the plague as a punishment for their sins. So, people started kind of looking down on people that got sick. If somebody was sick, it was thought of as like, oh, they deserve to be sick because they did something bad.
What'd you do, Judy?
Yeah,
What did you do? What'd you do to make the gods mad?
exactly. And not just that, but it also caused this fear for people that if they had people within their communities that didn't practice the same religion or had loose morals of whatever they consider to be loose morals,
They do stuff.
I lost my spot, I'm sorry.
That damn cat.
They they thought that it would cause God to punish that entire area. So as we've seen time and time again throughout history, fear led to hate and people started attacking their neighbors.
Like that fucking Jenny down the block.
Mm-hmm.
She keeps getting us all on the loose end of things.
Yeah.
Getting all attacked.
Yeah.
Gave Carl the damn lymphatic plague.
Yeah. So they started turning on people. They started turning in on themselves. I'm glad we don't live back then.
That's how people are now.
Kind of, yeah.
Sadly.
So I don't remember if I mentioned this, but with that, they attacked people that were of different religions as well.
Yeah. That's sadly how they do.
So Jewish people were massacred. Criminals were massacred. It sort of created a witch hunt type of effect. If they felt that somebody else was bad or a sinner, they had to get rid of them. And I can't help but wonder how many people used that just to get rid of people they didn't like.
Just like the fucking Salem witch trials.
Exactly.
Girl says no, she doesn't want to go on a date with you. You're like, witch.
Exactly.
Use it for whatever, dude. It's crazy.
But there's even more emotions because people are thinking they're righteous in the fact, but because, if I don't make these decisions and bring these things up, I could die. So it's even more charged, if that makes sense.
I get that.
From that fear arose flagellants.
Oh, people farted?
I wish.
Oh, you nasty.
So you don't know what flagellants are?
No, I know when people fart.
So it was thought to be a cure. There are a few that I had to mention this episode because I was so taken aback. Flagellants had been around before this, but they became extremely prevalent during the plague. Basically, they were very religious people that traveled around from town to town and would publicly beat themselves. Not sexually. I realize that wording sounds sexual. Not like that.
All right.
The group would gather and they would remove their shirts, strip everything off but their pants.
And whip themselves.
Yep. They
Yeah.
would use whips and leather straps with sharp metal pieces attached to them and whip their own backs, whip each other's backs.
Yeah, I never got that kink.
No, it wasn't even... Oh, it might have been a kink. They just used it as an excuse.
Yeah, they would have gotten whipped out of not pleasure if they said they really liked it.
That makes this even weirder.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was supposed to be a form of penance, and they did it until they bled. While they did it, they would sing hymns and preach gospel.
Sounds fucking terrible.
Yeah, not a good time. And they would just, gather in the center of town and just do their little whipping
I'm not
party.
gonna lie, if we moved to a new fucking town and that shit was going on, I'd be like, I wonder how long till I can get out of here.
Uh-huh.
This is wild. And then I'd fucking... You remember that one time we drove by the bridge and people were fucking jumping off of it?
Yeah, they were paragliding or parachuting something.
Yeah, they were
But it was-
parachuting, but my word, dude, I fucking saw that. I was tripping.
We couldn't see the parachutes at first, so it was really scary.
I made a joke about jumping over it, and then I look over and people jumped over it. I was
Yeah.
like, no, I was fucking joking, my guy.
It was weird.
Oh, terrifying.
But,
It was pretty cool, yeah.
I guess the belief behind flagellants,
Oh, you said flagellants.
because it's a G.
Flagellants.
Flagellants.
Not flatulence.
No, not
Okay.
flatulence.
You're not talking about farts. I was
No.
like, that is the weirdest change how they changed that word. Man. They were
Oh.
like, that used to talk about farts, or it used to talk about people whipping themselves, and they're like, let's just talk about the gas that comes out your ass when we use that word now. Let's stop talking about that.
I thought you were just being silly. Yeah, no.
No, I thought you said flatulence. I was like, ooh, wild.
No, flagellants with a G.
The less you know, because I didn't learn anything new. I thought I was learning there.
No.
Well, I guess I learned what the word was for the whippers. Mm-hmm. Oh, whippersnappers.
But so the belief behind this was that it would cleanse the town of any wrongdoings.
Imagine that nowadays. You got a fucking Yelp review on different people that fucking whip themselves
Oh my
downtown.
gosh.
Fucking Josiah did terrible this weekend. Don't call him. He's losing it.
But so they thought if they did this, it would protect the town from the wrath of God in the form of the plague.
Imagine we did that for COVID. Oh my gosh.
That would, yeah. That's all I could think this whole time was comparing every little thing to COVID. The group would stay in each town for 33 and a half days, and they would do this ritual 3 times a day, every day that they were there.
So they put on a show.
Yeah.
Were they allowed tips?
I don't know.
The
I'm sure they
scripture
didn't say
doesn't
no.
say it.
It doesn't. But after that 33 and a half days, they would then move on to the next town and repeat the process.
Who wants to see us getting whipped?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, us! Ludicrous done got Ludi in here. Now we're all sneezy.
Isn't that so, like, what?
That's, what a time to be alive.
Yeah. Somebody else that was confused by this was the Pope.
Yeah, that guy was like, what the fuck is going on in my street?
Yeah. As you can imagine, these public events got increasingly more and more chaotic. So even though there was a very religious idea behind flagellants, it worried the Pope that it could eventually become too violent or become a danger to the church, so he put a stop to it. He believed that it prompted personal religious expression that wasn't a part of what the church had already established as acceptable religious practice, so he made it a punishable offense.
He's like, you guys are doing too much.
I just want to know if the punishment for that was...
Whipping?
Uh-huh.
It's like, I'll whip you the way you don't like it.
Yeah. I couldn't find anything to answer that, but I have questions. Another treatment for the plague that was used is...
Honestly, I think they were crucified.
Maybe.
Seems to be what their punishment was back in the day.
That's fair. Another treatment for the plague that was used is known as the Vickery method, and it was named after the doctor that created it, Thomas Vickery. Basically, they would take a chicken,
Bugak.
pluck all of the feathers off its butt.
Was it alive?
It was a live, healthy chicken. That was a requirement. It had to be healthy.
That's fucking rude.
Yeah.
Plucking it alive.
Yeah, right? Oh my gosh. But they would pluck all the feathers off just its butt. Then they would put the chicken's butt on the boils of an infected person.
Ooh, raw ass.
The chicken was left there until it started showing signs of illness. Definitely not because it was a live chicken strapped to a human. The thought was it's sucking out the sickness.
Ooh, like that one time you put potatoes on my feet.
That works. So, when the chicken started showing signs of illness, it would be removed, washed, then strapped back on. And that process was repeated until either the person got healed, which never happened, or the chicken died, or the person died.
Did they eat the chicken after?
I sure as heck hope not, because besides the animal cruelty aspect that makes this so gross,
Foot chicken didn't sound good either, I know.
the plague also infected chickens and animals like that.
Well, they didn't know that. They didn't know chickens could piss God off.
But so they very well could have just been making things worse and taking infected chickens or infecting chickens and like I don't know.
Rubbing them all over their feet.
Yeah.
Well,
Their
you're
feet,
gonna
their
get-
armpits. No, what makes it worse is, remember, the part that's noted the most where they get the swollen lymph nodes was the armpit and the groin. So that's where you'd put the chicken.
I want it.
No. So I understand that it was a plague, okay? And people were trying to not get sick despite not understanding how people were getting sick. Businesses were shutting down. Doctors were not seeing sick patients. If you're listening to this, you've lived through that. You understand how scary that can be. So people were kind of left to their own devices to try to figure out how to save themselves, as they knew nothing back then. No offense.
They didn't know about washing their hands.
Yeah. But so they were just trying to figure out how to survive. But the part that blows my mind, it was a doctor that came up with that idea. A doctor sat there and said, hey, what if we just strapped a naked chicken to that guy's armpit? Just the butthole.
Well, yeah. To be a doctor, you just had to say, I'll do it.
I guess.
Sounds pretty cool.
Like, what the heck?
Try me, and we're going to use leeches on them, but not live leeches, boiled leeches on the backs of real leeches.
See,
Let's
even
do that. And shove them just in his armpits, have him keep his arms down, tie his wrists around his ankles, and put him in a dock under a bridge, and he should probably stop coughing by the end of the week.
It's like Mad Libs, like that.
And they're like, he just coughed once, sir. And he's like, I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
I'm a
Gross.
doctor. Fucking do it. Get the leeches, boil them.
It's just crazy. Even leeches makes more sense. Like I can
No, the fuck
understand.
it doesn't.
No, I can understand the thought process of
Suck the poison out.
yeah, like that. I can understand why they would get there. But a chicken?
Hey, animals had holistic, ritualistic properties. Like,
I
that
don't
was the
know.
belief
That's
system.
crazy. Speaking of ritualistic properties, at this point, like bring in the witches. What do you do? Where's the fucking
Ooh,
salves
that-
and balms?
Yeah, they
and
didn't fuck with that shit.
I guess not. But like what? And I didn't even put it in my notes because I was gonna save it. But now I'm heated. I'm a lot more heated now than I was earlier. I'm sorry. I don't know where this is coming from.
Me.
Another thing they did, no, they took poop, human poop, and would rub it all over the boils. Not your own poop. They would just gather poop, and when somebody had boils, rub it on the boils. Sometimes after lancing the boil, so rubbing it into these open cuts.
Yeah, so what had happened was the doctor convinced his one enemy to let him rub his shit all over him.
And then had a safe face.
No. He didn't even do it. He was telling the fucking story, and that guy also told the story. Well, somebody heard that they both told the same story and said, oh, well, if a doctor had him do it, it must fucking work. And it
was
kept
a
happening.
doctor, honey.
But the doctor was really just telling his buddy at the bar, like, dude, this guy let me spread my shit all over him. He was such a fucking dick in high school. But I told him I'm a doctor, and he let me fucking poop in the bowl and rub it on his face. It was wild. I wish we could have recorded it. What are cameras? Can we have them? And some guy overheard it and said, fuck, I'm kind of drunk, but I'm pretty sure that doctor just said he rubbed shit all over some guy's face and cured the boils.
I kind of wish, like, I kind of hope that that's how it happened because that makes sense. Anything else, I don't understand. I know humans had to go through so much to get to where we are now, but what the fuck?
See, there's always that question that everybody asks. Like, if you could talk to anybody dead or alive, like bring somebody back just to talk to them, any of those questions, you know, mine now has just changed to that guy that originated that. Like, Mister, at what point did you decide to tell people to start rubbing shit all over all of these infected places? Like,
Yeah.
when did that become a good idea? And I gotta know, dude. That is my person I want to talk to.
I get that. That makes sense. Because I would like to know the answer too. That's
Even though this is the first time I've ever heard of that being done, I would have to I have to know.
yeah.
Time travel's real. Guess what? I'm going back asking, who told you to do this? And then I'm going to go fucking question that guy. And yes, I'll bring a camera.
Now we need to go to the pharmacy museum in New Orleans and see if they know the answer. Because
It's written on the fucking board. Poop.
poop
If they have bad
in a
boils,
prescription.
use your poop. Not theirs, yours.
Yours. Yeah. Sorry for that
Prescription poop.
that side tangent. I just where am I?
I don't know, but I get the need for a tangent. Once you told me they were pooping,
Yeah.
like
what?
rubbing poop, like what the fuck?
So much crazy stuff.
See why I couldn't be alive in the fucking zombie apocalypse?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But so it was a scary time. People were scrambling. The plague killed an estimated 50 million to 200 million people. To put that into some perspective, the population of all of Canada was 40 million people in 2023.
Yeah, it's quite a few people. I mean, I guess
It's a lot of goddamn people. And that's the low end.
it kills less than smoking does.
Probably. So, people were understandably panicking, and the plague just kept coming. They didn't really understand how to stop the plague, so it was never really stopped. I didn't know that. Instead, it just continued happening, and it continued to come in waves, much like we have seen.
Oh, I don't see the plague come and go in waves.
No, but with COVID, how it came in waves,
Oh, yeah.
much like that, but
I
a
suppose.
lot further spread out. Like it would still be, people were still coming up with the plague, and then it would be like whoosh, like everybody's getting the plague. And it was just a repeated cycle because they didn't know, like, hey, maybe we should not rub poop. Maybe we should not do all this weird stuff.
I got the plague poop on me. And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, don't travel because you're going to die. You've got the plague. And they're like, I've always wanted to see Rome.
Yeah, that was a part
I'm
of
going to
it.
see China. Never seen that.
That was part of it. I didn't want to dive too far into it. I know I have a problem doing that. But, like, people in Venice, because the whole place is just a tiny little island, you know, all of Italy.
Mm-hmm.
So people in Venice,
Well, all of Italy is not a tiny little island.
well, yeah. But people in Venice would be like, oh, the plague is here now. Like, that's scary. Let's get out. So they would try to go to, I think Rome was one of them, but these other cities, and everybody would travel. Half of the people would die on the way of plague. And then they'd get to the doors and they'd be like, you're not, like, no offense, guys, you're not welcome here. And so they would have to make that trek all the way back to where they came from. And that just repeated all the time. They weren't allowed in. They were turned back, which I understand on the side of the, like, city trying to keep its people safe. But it was really tragic for the people that just watched almost everybody they knew die, trying to get away from the plague, and then have to retrace all their steps, walk past all these dead bodies to go back home, you know?
Yeah.
Part of the plague is known as the Italian plague.
Well, that's rude.
Yeah. And that was from the years 1629 to 1631. So that shows you just how long the plague ravaged Italy. It started in the 1300s, and it was not good. But then it got so bad 300 years later that they named it the Italian plague.
Like, we almost get rid of it, and then you guys go to Italy and you fucking bring it back. It's got to be the Italian plague.
Something, I don't know. But, so that's scary. But eventually, as time went on, they started to understand the plague a little bit better. And they learned that you could quarantine sick people and try to help stop the spread.
Only a few hundred years later.
Yeah. One random thing, I don't know why I put this right here. I'm sorry, this is random. But in the year 1527, the Doge offered the island of Poveglia to the Camaldolese monks. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. But they offered the island to monks.
I'll support you in the theory that you're not saying that right.
The monks quickly and politely said, no thank you, you can keep that island.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, which I think is a red flag. I don't know, I feel like they knew, like, something's funky with that island. We don't want it.
They were like, none of you guys want anything to do with it, and you're just giving it to us. You guys are willing to wage war on everything, but you want to give us a whole island? No.
Yeah.
We're not going to test this one. We'll see how it plays out. We'll be over here.
Yeah. But so, yeah, they said no. So instead, starting in 1776, so we are now well into the plague. The
At
island,
least a couple years.
at least. The island became a sort of port where any ship going in or out of Venice would have to stop, and everybody on board would be inspected for symptoms of sickness. Of course, the symptoms were whatever the person inspecting wanted to think were the symptoms, you know?
Yeah. They're like, well, this seems like a symptom.
Yeah. That
You can't.
guy sneezed, so I'm sure you have the plague. Come on, you know. When the plague was spotted on 2 ships in 1793, the island officially became a quarantine zone.
They're like, we got it here. Then you stay here now.
Yes.
You work. It's like a prison, isn't it?
Kinda, yeah.
Yep.
Anyone suspected of being sick had to quarantine on the island for 40 days. That's where we got the word quarantine, because it literally is Venetian for 40 days. I didn't know that.
I was not aware.
Yeah.
Today I was made aware.
Eventually, people from the mainland that had symptoms were sent to the island to quarantine as well. But the survival rate of the plague was still very low. So it kind of turned into a place where you would just send people to die.
They're like, we ain't got to clean up the bodies if you just leave them over there.
Yeah.
They never even fucking built a building over there.
No.
They just sent people. They were like, hey,
There
go to
are
the
buildings.
island.
There are buildings, but it was kind of understood, like, if you're being sent to the island, you're not coming home.
Oh, I got sent to the island and you're not even sick.
Yeah, a lot of the times, well, I can't say a lot of the times. I wasn't there. It's not super documented. but it's,
Assumed.
assumed that a lot of the time people weren't actually sick. It was more of like out of fear, and they would send people.
I'm just saying, you wake up and you're like, the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
And it was just some asshole playing a prank on you.
Oh gosh. I'm sure it happened. So imagine, being sick with this terrifying illness, or worse, not being sick with it. Then you're sent to this island
To get sick with it.
against your will,
Get up, get down with the sickness.
surrounded by other sick people, and there's just dead bodies piling up around you.
You got nothing to do. They didn't have TV back then or nothing.
That is such a scary situation. And conditions on the island were not great either. Researchers believe that somewhere from 100,000 to 160,000 people were sent to die on Poveglia. I'm sure they weren't all there at once, but that's still a lot of people on 17 acres of land.
How big is the typical cemetery?
I don't know if there is a typical size.
Average.
I don't know, Google it. I don't know where my phone is.
Never mind, because it says that it's not measured in acres, but mostly square feet.
Yeah, I tried finding comparisons for 17 acres, but it just gave me weird things that I don't know, like half of the Navy Yard in Chicago or something. All I know is 17 acres is not a lot of land. You've been to my grandparents' house.
I have.
That's 2 acres.
I've seen only mostly the house.
Yeah, that's
And
the
the
2
driveway.
acres.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Sorry to anyone listening that hasn't been to my grandparents' house. I don't know what to compare it to.
So imagine Monica's grandparents' house, right?
Now, people knew that you could get sick from being around sick people. So when somebody would die on the island, they would either put them in a mass grave or burn them on huge pyres.
You say when somebody got sick,
Yeah.
they were like, we're not even waiting for you to die. We know you're going to do it. We're going to set you on fire now.
Yes.
That's fucking rude.
Yeah.
But time saving, I guess. They're like, look, we're not lighting 2 fires today. You're going to be there tomorrow anyways.
Yeah. So I didn't even mean to talk about that there. It's weird that you understood my brain process.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's weird. The bodies built up so fast and they were just trying to get ahead of everything. And so they would throw people, just alive, sick people, into the fires or into the grave.
How many people worked here?
From the sounds of it,
It was all volunteer.
no. It was just the people that either weren't sick or weren't sick enough that they could still move around. And they were the ones that had to.
So they made them do it to themselves?
Yeah.
That's fucking hella disrespectful.
Because there was the sick where they could barely move. Like they couldn't fight and be like, no, don't put me on the fucking fire, please.
Yeah.
And the sick that was they could still walk around at that point.
Like, you're taking up space. I'm going to put you in the fire.
Basically, yeah, it was like dog eat dog. I'm sorry. Even if they were family or friends, you are very sick. I still have a fighting chance. I have to remove you.
How the poo-poo on the face started. They're like, fuck this guy. I'm throwing him in the fire.
Yeah,
And they're
something.
like, Carl, the fuck you do that for? And he's like, he was about to die, by tomorrow. And we need the space. And they're like, oh, yeah, let's start doing that with the rest of them. Good idea, Carl. And he's like, fuck yeah.
Kinda.
I met you, Henry.
Kinda, yeah. But how scary is that they were put in a position where they had to make that choice of, let's just start getting rid of people while they're alive so that we have a better chance of living, which nobody got off the island. So,
That's pretty shitty.
yeah. This whole episode has me so heated right now. I'm sorry. This wasn't happening earlier. Because of all of that, legend says that up to 50% of the soil on Poveglia is made up of the ashes of Black Plague victims.
Up to half, huh?
Up to half. Some statistics said 60%. And there are some places there, if you go, and you go up to the mass pyres where they did the fires,
Mm-hmm.
you can touch it, and it's the first inch or two is just human ash.
Still?
Still.
Why are people still touching it?
I don't know.
People are weird.
People are weird. But isn't that so gross and scary?
That is. It's fucked up.
Yeah. Another really gross fun fact is that apparently the gases from decomposition can cause organs to rupture, which leads to the person bleeding out of their nose and mouth.
Yes.
Yeah. So when the mass graves were reopened, because they would cover them so the air from the dead bodies wasn't mixing with their air, you know?
Yeah.
So when the mass graves were reopened to add more bodies, people would see the bodies with blood coming out of their mouths, and they assumed that's a fucking vampire. He's in there feeding on all the bodies. So to stop the vampire, they would put rocks in their mouth and reseal up the grave.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
That's how you get rid of a vampire. You fucking put rocks in their mouth.
apparently.
No garlic, guys.
No.
No steaks. Rocks in the mouth. Put them in a grave. You could use their own casket.
And the reason that we know this is because when researchers and historians dug up these pits, they found the bodies with stones in their mouths.
And one of them said, "Oh, thank you. I've had that in there for centuries. They called me a fucking vampire. Stuck those in there."
Thank you, because I was like, that's kind of a weird jump to make, but I'm not going to question it. But yeah, I don't...
So I've been trying to fucking speak for years. For centuries I've been like this.
That'd be crazy.
That would be wild. And they're like, we're not going to tell them that vampires are real, but this is why we assume it.
But we know.
You can put 2 and 2 together. You still won't get 4.
Also, did you know that the Black Plague is still around today? And
I did.
Maybe it's because of the vampires. They unleashed them, so they're...
That's your first time having that thought, though.
It is.
But yes, I did know the Black Plague is still around today. You told me earlier.
I did.
You did. If you didn't tell me earlier, I would not have known.
As recent as 2014, there was a case near Bend, Oregon.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that, actually.
Do you?
Yeah, I remember because I was like, what the fuck? I thought that shit was gone.
Yeah, I thought it was too.
And I had just moved to Oregon at that point, and I was like, huh, go figure.
Yeah, and it's, don't get me wrong, it's incredibly rare, but it's like not that rare. You know what I mean? Like,
Happens like once every 16 hours.
no, but there's an estimated 1,000 to 3,000 cases a year, I think, throughout the world, not just the US. So, especially on a scale of the world, it's not that much, but I thought the number would be a lot more, like 2.
Or 1 every decade.
Yeah, something like that. That's a lot.
Like, oh, we get weekly documented cases, but it's nothing enough to actually report.
Crazy. But yeah, so 2014, near Bend, Oregon, just outside of Prineville, to be exact, 59-year-old welder Paul Gaylord was worried about his short gray-haired cat named Charlie, who had been missing for a few days. Paul lived in a very rural area, so there's a lot of trouble that a cat could get into when he's outside.
You know, furball fights, you know.
Yeah. We've all seen the TikToks of the cat with the camera, and that's inner city.
That's a gangster-ass cat, I'll say that.
It was a gangster cat, holy cow. Finally, Paul was met with relief when Charlie showed up on a Saturday night.
Brought him the fucking plague.
Yeah, the relief was short-lived when Paul realized that something seemed to be wrong with Charlie. Charlie was having difficulties walking, he was weirdly swollen, and it seemed like he was choking on something.
Damn plague.
Paul tried to pull the object out of Charlie's mouth, and once he got close enough, he could tell that it was a mouse. But he wasn't able to remove it, and Charlie accidentally bit him in the process.
Cat scratch fever.
Yeah, I'll get there, hold on. Unfortunately, when Charlie re-showed up the next day with the mouse still in his mouth, he was in even worse condition, and Paul said it seemed like the mouse was decomposing in Charlie's mouth and just stuck there. So Charlie had to put him down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, understandable. Especially, just can't get it out.
Yeah. So that's very sad. And it sucks that he had to deal with that. But then, by mid-morning the following Monday, Paul started to show symptoms. He did go to urgent care, where the doctor, like you said, assumed it was cat scratch fever. He was given antibiotics and then sent home. However, obviously by us discussing the story right now, it was not cat scratch fever. A few days later, he started turning gray, and then he developed the large lymph nodes underneath his armpits, and he returned to urgent care. The urgent care sent him to a hospital, and a doctor at the hospital told him I think you have bubonic plague.
I would call everybody I know.
Yeah. Like,
Not to be like, hey, you need to get yourself tested, but like, you got to get a load of this shit. The
Yeah.
doctor just told me I got the fucking black plague, dude.
guess what the fuck? Yeah.
You remember how I used to joke about getting scurvy?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, fuck that. Scurvy is nothing when you got the plague. Check it out, my guy.
So basically, things got as bad for Paul as they could have. His lungs collapsed. He had to be put on a dialysis machine. His heart stopped. He had to have a tracheotomy. He was in a coma for 27 days.
Oh, yeah, obviously. I'd tell people after the coma.
Yeah. And he actually developed all 3 versions of the Black Plague. There's bubonic, which attacks the lymphatic system. There's septicemic, which attacks the bloodstream. And then there's pneumonic, which attacks the lungs. So Paul had all of them.
Somebody really didn't like that guy.
Or somebody really did. Because it does seem like somebody was watching out for Paul. The literal day before he woke up from his coma, there was a discussion by the doctors about pulling the plug. Then, after he did wake up from the coma, the doctors told him that he would have to be on dialysis for the rest of his life. He did 1 treatment, and he was healed. He did lose all of his fingers, all of his toes, and half of his right foot. But other than that, he's completely recovered.
Shit's wild.
Yeah. What? This thing that almost completely wiped out the world, and you made it out. Like, that's a feat. That sounds weird. But that's
Especially
something.
since you lost one, rude.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever going to believe this guy either. They're going to be like, dude, what happened to your fucking foot? Be like, bubonic plague or the pneumonic plague. I don't know. It was one of the plagues. The goddamn
them.
black plague got me.
Yeah.
I can be like, haha, no, really. And he's like, nah, really.
See, at least you can just Google him, and it comes up. Paul Gaylord. And I'll try to post pictures of him too, because there's a ton. The pictures are gnarly, but the doctors, or whoever, somebody documented it really well. So there's pictures of his fingers, there's pictures of his toes, like all of it.
Was that the fingers you showed me earlier?
That was the fingers I showed you, yeah.
Oh, it looked like he had oil all over him. I'm not going to lie.
That's kind of what it looks like, huh?
Yeah.
It's very weird. Like almost like maybe a glove or something. Like it kind of doesn't look like skin. It looks thicker than skin, but it looks nightmarish.
Looked unenjoyable.
Yeah.
So is this island free to visit?
No.
Oh.
We'll get to that. Unfortunately, there's still a lot more horrific story. In 1814, the quarantine station, also known as a lazaretto, that was the proper name for those, was officially shut down. To my understanding, it remained abandoned until about 1922. In 1922, the remaining buildings of Poveglia Island were converted into an insane asylum.
Ooh.
Yeah, because what else are you going to do with land that is seeped in dark history?
And a bunch of dead bodies.
And a bunch of dead bodies. And dead body dust.
Make it a prison or an insane asylum, one of the two.
Yep. Some things that I saw said there was a ward in the hospital for tuberculosis patients and diseases like that. But I'm not completely sure. I couldn't find a whole lot of information on that. But there might have been a ward for more infectious diseases. So if you ever try to go, just know that. Diseases out the wazoo.
At least the bubonic plague.
At least. But we do know for sure that there was at least the mental hospital because there is a sign there. Like you can go and see the sign. Don't go. But if you go, you can see the sign.
I might just need to take a picture of the sign.
You can take boat rides and get up close to the island. So you, especially with your Samsung Zoom, you might be able to get a good picture of that.
Oh, I bet I can get a great picture out the window from one of the buildings.
Yeah. During this time, some more really dark rumors came about. First of all, it's a mental hospital in the 1900s. Second of all, it's an island where people are just sent and left.
Yeah.
Then, people were getting sent to medical hospitals for tons of invalid reasons. Here are some examples. Syphilis.
Oh, sometimes syphilis does cause people to go loopy.
That's true.
It causes, your brain to boil.
Yeah, remember the doctor from the New Orleans episode?
Yeah.
Yeah. Epilepsy.
Oh, yeah. They're like, I can't get him to stop shaking. Take him to the island.
Menstrual problems.
She's real angry when she's on her period. Take her to the island.
Laziness.
Ooh, he won't get up. Keeps fucking talking about he'll do it later. Take him to the island.
Masturbation.
He won't get his fucking hand out of his pants. His dick's always in his hand. Take him to the island. Yeah, any reason, they just send you there.
Yeah, I was trying to find, like, there's a lot of information on why people would be sent to mental institutions in the 1800s. So I was trying to find something that specified 1900s. I couldn't find a whole lot, but you could find stuff that kind of like seemed like it could go either way. Some of the stuff was so crazy, like reading books.
Yeah, if you knew how to read, that's wild.
Yeah.
And
What?
if you did it for fun, you're nuts.
One of them was being sexually promiscuous,
Oh, no hose. What's wrong with you?
not going to church,
If you don't go to church, then what are you doing with your life?
like crazy stuff.
Well, crazy stuff is a good reason to go to a psych ward.
All that to say, there are rumors that the doctor there, allegedly named Dr. Paolo, was performing experiments on his patients.
Lobotomies.
Yep. These were horrific experiments, including lobotomies, electric shock therapy, force feeding, which was new to me, that type of stuff. He didn't use any anesthesia, but he did use things like hammers, drills, chisels, whatever he could get his hands on.
Well, I don't imagine they had a lot of power tools back then.
Yeah, that's true. One thing that is crazy is apparently if you go today, you can still see some of the stuff that was used. Yeah. So I don't know if by that they meant like scalpels. I don't know how old scalpels are.
Yeah, I think stuff like that.
Yeah.
We've been to museums where they still have like stuff that was used.
Yeah. So that's, oh gosh. Especially since
That one still has the ashes of all the fucking people it
Yeah.
killed too. That's what's wild.
So I was going to say, especially since it's not a museum, I'm sure it's not like locked up in a little case, with a little.
No, I'm sure it
Graphic.
is. I'm sure it is. They got shit like that in regular buildings.
I don't think so. It's alleged that he also treated his patients horribly and that he did things like strapped them down to the bed and left them alone in the dark room for days on end. So he had an endless supply of people to experiment on
Oh yeah.
and an island basically all to himself.
Yeah.
When patients would die, he would just bury them on the island and nobody would ask any questions.
Or tell other people like, hey, set him on fire.
Yeah.
Or I got you next week, Joey.
I don't think we'll ever really know.
Oh, they killed him?
Well, he's certainly not still alive.
I know, but nobody asked him.
According to the legend, the doctor was eventually driven mad by the ghosts of his patients
Well, yeah.
and eventually jumped to his death off the bell tower that can still be seen on the island to this day.
That makes sense then.
But there are other versions of his death.
Oh, what's that?
One is that basically he was a good doctor, but because of all of the dark stuff already on the island, he was kind of like possessed. And that's why he did all the dark stuff, and he couldn't live with himself with that knowledge anymore that he did all those things. So he jumped.
But again, they're saying he caused his own.
One is that he was pushed by ghosts.
Oh.
Because also, allegedly, he used the bell tower to do all of these experiments, like the dark experiments, so the lobotomies and that type of stuff. And so people think that the ghost, when he was up there, pushed him out.
All right.
But, like, could it also have been a patient that he was trying to take up there that pushed him? Then there is one weird story. I couldn't, like, find the proof of this story, but a lot of people talk about this story, so take it with a grain of salt, but it's very interesting. I guess a nurse that worked at the hospital saw him fall. She wasn't sure if he jumped or fell, if I remember right, but she saw him fall. And then when he landed, she saw a dark, like, black mist, like a fog, engulf
Ooh, like
him.
a demon.
Yeah, and, like, eat him. He was still alive when he landed, and it finished him off. It makes me think of that thing in Lost.
So hold on, was she somebody who worked for him, or
Worked for
the
him.
patient that he was taking up to the room?
That's a good question. But no, she supposedly worked for him, so she should have been in sound mind. But that's what she like swore, like, this is what I saw.
And
So-
they left her on the island.
I don't know. I think it closed down shortly after he passed away.
And they left her on the island. And they were like, we'll come back for you. Don't worry. You're just cleaning stuff up.
Maybe. I couldn't find an exact end to the island either.
Like, it just keeps going on forever.
No. Most places say that in 1968, the hospital officially closed. Some places said that it was because something bad happened with the water, like it made it toxic, and so everybody had to evacuate really fast, which is weird. But some places said that after the hospital closed, it opened up until 1975 and served as a geriatric hospital, which, first of all, fucked up. To be like, hey, Granny, Grampy, have fun on your island.
You remember back when they used to send people here for being nuts and kill them back when you were young? You're going to retire here.
Second of all, super fucked up if everybody really did have to evacuate because of the water, and then they're like, let's just send more people.
Yeah, and they were like, send the old folks.
Yeah, what?
They don't need good water.
But yeah, like I said, I couldn't find much information on if it was for sure a geriatric hospital, exactly when it closed, nothing like that. But like I said, we do for sure know that the mental hospital was there.
Oof.
Yeah. In 2014, the Italian government did list this island for sale, and it was reported all over that somebody bought it.
Ooh.
If you search Poveglia Island sale, you'll see tons of articles talking about how it was sold to a developer named Luigi Brugnario. Brugnario, I think is how you say it. Apparently his plan was to buy the land and turn it into like a fancy resort or hotel.
Didn't pan out?
No. I don't know what happened. Nobody really does, but it's been 11 years and the land is still in the exact same state. There are some rumors, of course. One is that he spent the night there, but I don't know why he would do that. But he spent the night there and was so scared that he was like, nope, not touching the land. The other is that he was there like touring the place and he had his daughter with him, and his daughter ran up to the bell tower and was scratched by a ghost. And she was so scared that he was like not doing anything with it.
Maybe it's zoning permits.
I believe he went there and saw something.
Yeah, I don't think he spent the night, though.
No, I don't think he spent the night.
Like, he spent all this money and he's like, now I'm going to go sleep on it in a tent.
See,
under
that's...
the stars.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Mr. Luxury Hotel is not staying in a tent. I don't care.
I'm going to open a luxury hotel, but I wonder what it'd be like to sleep here without one.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Terrible.
You know what? Scratch the whole idea. Nobody is ever sleeping here again.
Now, where it really gets interesting to me, one of the rumors is that for some reason the purchase fell through. Like, that seems to be the most acceptable idea now, is for whatever reason it fell through. He couldn't get financed for his bid, something like that.
And they just don't want to talk about it.
But if that happened, the reason Italy listed it for sale in the first place was because they had accrued massive debt. They thought, hey, if we just sell this island that we don't want to touch anyway, we can pay off some of our debt.
Yeah.
So if the purchase just didn't fall through, why would they not list it for sale again? Either this guy does own it and is too scared to touch it, or the Italian government owns it and knows what happened to him, and they're too scared to try to sell it again.
Maybe he's like, I spent way too much money. I can't do shit with it yet.
No, let me have fun.
Oh, okay.
I'm convinced something weird happened there.
It's possible. Very possible.
Especially for it to sit, like, I know 2014 feels like it was not that long ago. That's 11 years.
Yeah, that's not that long.
11 years?
Yeah.
You're crazy. In 2009, Ghost Adventures did get permission to go to the island and film.
From that guy?
No,
Why didn't
from...
they ask him what happened?
Well, see, that's what's confusing is it has to be owned by the Italian government. Because how would they get permission from that guy? But also, if you trespass now, you can get... We'll get there, but I don't understand. But so in 2009, the TV show Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagans, they got permission to go to the island and film. I haven't watched the episode yet, but it's supposed to be really good. If you watch Ghost Adventures, you just know that Zach Bagans is a hoot.
Okay.
I'm excited to watch it. In 2014, a group of American men from Colorado visited and had to be saved by Italian firefighters. Apparently, a passing boat heard their screams and alerted officials, and that's how they were rescued. And when the firefighters got there, the group of men were in such an extreme state of shock from experiencing something horrifying while they were there. But we don't know what it was.
These guys never talked about it after?
No, not that I could find.
There's too many people that do that.
Yeah. So I think that's why I feel like there's something really weird going on, because why aren't people talking about it? So often scary stuff happens, and a lot of the time it's true scary stuff and people still talk about it. Like, scroll on TikTok and you'll see 1,500 ghost videos and ghost stories and vampire stories. For people to not be talking about it makes me feel like something so scary is going on that island.
It's fair.
It has been reported by people that have managed to get to the island that at night you can hear whispers and screaming. You can also occasionally hear the sound of the bell tower ringing, despite the bell being removed decades ago.
Ooh.
Yeah. Some people have even reported hearing voices screaming at them to stay away and leave.
It's the Italian government.
On like the megaphones.
Like, stay away.
People have also said that to this day, the island smells of decay. Like decaying bodies.
Well, yeah, they probably didn't burn all of them.
Yeah, because the pits.
Got shut down because OSHA.
Yeah.
What?
Full body apparitions of plague doctors with the mask have been seen. It's said that patients in the asylum often saw plague victims, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
So imagine like being locked up for being emotional.
Actually having a mental condition, though.
Yeah. Yeah, huh.
Yeah.
And nobody freaking believes that, like, there's a man standing at the foot of my bed. Like, that's weird. People have reported being pushed or scratched unexplainably.
Zach.
And apparently, there was even a construction crew that was trying to do work on the hospital that abruptly left in the middle of the job and never returned. So I wonder
if they actually left?
No.
Oh.
Well, ooh. But I wonder if that could have been what happened to the 2014 plans, if it was that construction crew.
That would make sense.
Yeah, because it's not widely reported on, but it's like very known in that area. So interesting to say the least.
The least.
The least. A lot of the sounds, like the screams and the bell ringing, can be heard from ships out in the water. So you don't have to go to the island to experience a haunting.
Yes, you do. To make it authentic.
But in addition to those hauntings, apparently there was also a patient in a wheelchair when it was a hospital, and to this day, the sound of the wheels spinning on the wheelchair can be heard. There was also a patient that I guess was constantly smiling and laughing, and you can still hear his laugh. There's the spirit of a little girl that is believed to have been a plague victim that can be seen occasionally. People have also reported seeing faces from behind the windows of different buildings. And people have also reported seeing eyes, like a person's eyes, staring at them from underneath the water.
Once I can afford to go there, I'll tell you guys if any of this is real.
No, you won't.
Oh.
You're not going. I even found a blog post by an adventurer named Scott McKinnon that says that he was able to get to the island. He said when he first arrived, it felt fine. It wasn't too scary. He was just taking in the history of it all, exploring a little bit. He said he felt safe because he could see out in the water. There were still like a bunch of boats passing, you know?
Yeah.
So he felt fine. Once it got dark, it was a different story entirely. He couldn't see the boats anymore.
Yeah, it's dark.
And he said he just felt a presence. Like he felt like something was off and his fight or flight was like triggered.
Well, that's just called being scared, my guy.
He said he never saw a ghost and he never experienced anything that was really scary. But he just felt like something was not right. And he was planning on spending the night close to the hospital. But he got too scared and ended up spending the entire night on the dock waiting for his boat to come pick him up. He said despite not seeing any ghosts, he would never return. If you want to read that blog post, it's on backpackertravel.org. If you want to go check that out yourself.
All right.
Today, visitors of the island will find abandoned hospital beds, dilapidated buildings, caved-in roofs, and possibly some bones.
It sounds like it. At least ash from them.
Yeah, fishermen refuse to go anywhere near the area out of fear of catching skeletons in their fishing nets.
And
But apparently, the fishermen say that on a clear day, you can see the skulls and bones through the water.
that's a lot.
Yeah. And people also say that occasionally, like, charred bones will still wash up on shore.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it is still illegal to visit the island.
That's why you keep saying I can't.
Yeah.
Or
And
shouldn't.
it seems very dangerous anyway for a number of reasons. I feel like, first of all, it would be a health hazard.
Wear a mask. Got it.
Is the plague gone?
No, we just heard it was in Oregon not too long ago.
No, from there. Like, it sounds
No,
like it's
if it
just...
was in Oregon.
Yeah. Like, it's just a breeding ground for the plague. I'm sure there's still animals and stuff, so it just continues to thrive.
Possibly.
And then, of course, there's the issues of, like, all of these abandoned buildings, and they could cave, all of that. The typical
Don't go
abandoned...
inside of them, yeah.
Yeah. It takes almost zero effort to learn that if you want to visit the island, you could offer to pay a fisherman to take you. But just know that there are also reports of people that have done that, and the fishermen never came back to pick them up.
It's fucking rude.
Yeah.
How'd they get back? Did they report that?
No.
They should. That's the nice thing.
They should. Well, that group of men from Colorado just screamed loud enough, and somebody saved them. So.
Eventually.
Yeah.
So, now you know what you gotta do, guys. Just keep screaming. Just keep screaming.
There's also no cell service on the island. There might be now. I don't know. Because 5G. But
Oh, yeah?
so just don't do dumb things. Be responsible. Understand that if you ever do visit, you could face legal fines and or jail time.
At least.
At least. But see, so that's what I wanted to circle back to.
Oh, what?
The legal fees and jail time, if it was owned by the developer and he has seemingly no plans to do anything with it.
Well, he can still press trespassing penalties in America. I don't know about
Italy.
Italy, but I'm sure it's probably about the same.
Maybe.
Something similar, at least relative.
I don't know. It's just very interesting to me.
Absolutely.
But so that's Poveglia Island. And all of the dark, expansive history.
And that's the anxious bedtime story.
If it weren't illegal to go, would you?
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. I feel like that's the type of place that I would step foot into it and just immediately feel sick. Like when I went to the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, yeah. You've been to the Brooklyn Bridge?
I mean, the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh.
Like I said, I think my biggest fear in going, besides the ghosts,
Is the law. Yeah.
no, is,
Oh, mine would be the law.
we just said if it weren't illegal,
Oh, yeah.
is the fact that how can you guarantee the plague isn't still thriving there?
I just wear a mask and hope for the best, honestly.
But the plague isn't a virus, it's not airborne.
I know. I just hope for the best is what I said. That's the biggest part. Just hoping for the best. Like, no, we'll make it out. There ain't no plague get on me. I'd have to check it out, dude.
I think maybe if you went in like a full body suit.
Yeah, that's fine. If that's what I gotta do.
It seems like a lot of people do go So if you want, like, you can watch full walkthroughs on YouTube.
Oh,
So even if you do never go yourself, you can watch those videos.
I probably will, at least a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't watched any full ones yet, but it seems like they're pretty thorough walkthroughs, so that's interesting.
Like they're trying to rent an apartment.
No. No,
Oh.
it's like old. The buildings seem to be in worse shape than a lot of the places that we've gone to, like that castle in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ruins.
Yeah, basically ruins, but it seems cool.
Like I said, I'd try to visit.
I don't know. It can't be safe breathing in human remains. I think I'm pretty solidly team watch videos, but I wouldn't go. So let us know if you would,
I'd bring you back a video after I visited.
but you never would because it's illegal.
Right.
Yeah. Don't do dumb things. Don't go. But if you do, email us.
Send us the video.
Send us the video. You can send that or any other paranormal story to anxiousatbedtimepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on social media. We have a TikTok, an Instagram, a Threads, a YouTube Shorts. We just started doing that.
Ooh.
Slowly figuring it out.
Oh.
And maybe a Facebook soon.
Maybe.
We'll see.
The world can be a scary place with islands full of mysteries and ghosts and a lot of fucking ash. There's a lot of ash.
A lot of ash.
That is a lot of ash. But we're probably fine.
We're probably fine.
We're probably fine.
Sleep tight.